It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders on this Halloween edition of Steelers Afternoon Drive. Happy Halloween to everybody watching and listening to this. Happy Halloween to you, Alan. First thing that I want to ask you, what's your favorite candy?
Not a big candy guy in general.
Okay.
I don't have like much of a sweet tooth. If I get a candy bar, usually just a Snickers. Or I like the one, like some of the like goofy Reese's ones with like 9 things in them, like the Nutrageous one or the Take 5.
Okay.
Those are okay too. Anything
Gotcha.
like that.
So like either you're not
salty sweet, like you have the peanuts or the one has pretzels in it or something like that. I'm not a sweets person in general.
My favorite candy bar is Take 5 because
that's a good one
in there too.
That's a good one. Take 5, Nutrageous. What's the Baby Ruth? That's good. Snickers. Anything with some peanuts or some. Take 5 has pretzels in it, right?
Pretzels. Yep.
Yeah. So anything like that is where I'm headed there. Something with some saltiness to it. I also I like good dark chocolate. I like that too.
Okay. I'll say, is it just a chocolate thing that you're not like the biggest fan of, or even like on the other side of that, like gummy?
Well, the other side even less. Like I'm not eating
Really?
any like Skittles or never, not at all. Not my thing.
You know, the big what I've seen for whatever reason, unless this is just around me, that's like real big all of a sudden, is like the nerd ropes and the nerd clusters. I don't know if you've seen those, but like the gummy clusters are massive around here. Yeah,
gummy nerds. Yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah. They are, for whatever reason, super big around here.
The other day at the Steelers facility, they had like gigantic bags of like old school Haribo gummy bears. And I was like, okay.
There we go. Let us know in the comments what your candy of choice is as well. We got to get into the Halloween theme of this show. We're not doing like a superlatives thing like we sometimes do on these episodes, so I figured we got to incorporate it some way. So let us know in the comments. Alan, some news to talk about right off the rip of this episode. Dylan Cook waived, and when I saw this, I mean, you know, maybe there's people out there that weren't, but at least 2 of us as we sit here surprised by this move. I don't necessarily understand it. Tackle's not a position where the group is super deep at. I thought that, like, from a developmental standpoint, he was coming along nicely. It just seems very odd to me.
I don't understand this at all. They have 2 open roster spots. Now, like one of them will be taken up by Cam Sutton on Monday, but okay, they have an open roster spot. They just cut him just to cut him. I don't understand. I really like Dylan Cook. I think he's a better player than Calvin Anderson. I think he is
I agree.
A prospect that has potential to be not just like some scrub backup, but like a potential future, like good backup / like quality fill-in starter type. I think he has that potential. I don't understand this at all.
I kind of thought he could be like their next, like Trenton Scott, who just got a deal in Washington as like a swing tackle type player. And I thought Dylan Cook could maybe carve out that type of role for himself, or again, like, you know, a primary backup. There's a guy that could play both spots too. So like interesting to me.
Same thing.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know, he's been around forever. You know, like I absolutely think Dylan Cook has that ability in him, if not more. And so I don't understand this move unless, you know, they're very sure that they could sneak him through waivers. They do have a bunch of guys coming back from injured reserve.
Yeah.
I think Corey Trice is not far off. You know, I don't think Ben Skoranek is far away. We talked about Cole Holcomb. Like, they do have a bunch of guys coming back. So maybe, I don't know, maybe they're very confident they can get them through waivers.
But like, why do this now without activating somebody from IR? Like, why have that open roster spot for a day or however long it's going to be?
I mean, and like saves them a week of his salary. You know, that's all I've got. Like,
oh, great, we got Bob nutting in the Steelers here now. Here we go.
Well, it goes against the cap. I mean,
I'm joking.
you know, I don't know. It does not like he makes very much. Like I really don't understand any of this move.
Yeah.
Like I said, unless they're really sure they can get him through waivers. But if they were so sure they can get him through waivers, why bother to put him on the IR return in the front? That's the part of it that I really don't understand. Is that in the preseason they only had 2 injured reserve return spots. So like Logan Lee, they had to keep on the roster and then like finagle him to get him on so they could eventually return him. Ryan Watts is out for the year, whether he's out for the year or not. And he was not sure then that he was out for the year because they used the return spots on Moon and Cook. Like clearly at the end of August, they really valued this player. They did something. They used a very scarce resource. You get 8 of those over the course of the year, and only 2 preseason on him. And now they're waiving him. Like it really doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't get it. Maybe we'll get some more clarity in terms of what the idea was behind this or what the plan is with that roster spot here in the near future. Well, I guess we would have to get an answer on that in the near future. But let's continue that into our discussion that we had yesterday in terms of just kind of going over where we're at with this position groups as we sit here at the halfway point, where we expected them to be, where they're at now, and kind of what we expect going forward through the rest of the season. I think that we were just talking about Dylan Cook. Let's continue that conversation, talking about the offensive line. And the first guy that I'm going to bring up here and have a conversation about is, I think the one that everybody wants to have a conversation about is Broderick Jones. We talked about, obviously he hasn't been very good. I think there's the case there to be made that he's been the most disappointing Steeler, or the worst Steeler, I should say, so far this season. You see him continually killing drives, whether it's the face mask penalty that he had in this past game that took a touchdown off the board, or just drive killers with holding calls, or just the technique in general. He hasn't taken that second year leap that people were necessarily hoping for. Not that you and I and a lot of other people necessarily expected him to take, but one that many people, I thought, were hoping that he would. Where are we at with Broderick Jones compared to the expectation preseason? And is there hope the back half of the schedule here that he can figure things out based off anything that you've seen?
Well, I think it's it's been a disappointing year for him with the injury, certainly. That sort of took away a lot of his training camp, and it kind of lost that improvement time. He's now gotten, I think, back to playing like he was playing last year, but playing like he was last year wasn't very good. He needs to grow. He needs reps. I'm not like concerned about the trajectory for Broderick Jones, but the play right now is not very good. And, that doesn't really surprise me. I was surprised, when they kind of came up with the plan that he was going to play left tackle. I never really thought that. I've kind of always been of the mind that Broderick Jones is better suited to playing right tackle anyway. I understood the thought process because he is the better athlete. He is a bigger player. And so like you kind of, if everything works out and Broderick Jones becomes 100% of the player he's capable of becoming, sure, like left tackle would be where to put him. But I just felt like he was so far from that seems so far-fetched, and he's so much better as a run blocker than he is a pass blocker. The right tackle was the move here anyway. So I think a lot of people expected him to be playing better and to be playing a left tackle. I didn't have either of those expectations really. And so, I think this is about what I expected from Broderick Jones this year, outside of the injury. And, I guess maybe you hope to see some improvement, but I don't think I was expecting a lot of it.
Yeah. I guess that's kind of where I'm at too. I said when we had taken him, like hopefully by year 3, you start to see the player that you're hopeful that you drafted. Not to say that we couldn't see a little bit of a leap taken this year. I would have liked to have obviously have seen that. And, I think that the injury in some respect plays into that, but like even outside of the elbow thing or the thumb thing, like I think that his footwork has been a mess at times. And I just don't think that it's all the injury, the reason that he's played the way that he has.
No, I just think the injury kind of took away like some development time where like you could have been working on those things. And instead he was working on dealing with an injury and rehabbing and that kind of thing. But I mean, certainly players have overcome more. Like I don't think that's some kind of like unmanageable hurdle. It's just he's young, he's inexperienced, and it was always going to be a long learning curve. I think it's kind of funny now to think back about like the people like so upset that he was not starting at the beginning of last year. And now look, it's a whole year into starting now, and it's like, hey, sure you were upset about this because it's not great.
Right. Yeah, I didn't want to single him out from talking about like having the discussion in terms of the entire group there. But I feel like everybody else, like who could you talk about and say that they've played worse than you expected coming into the season? Is there another player along the offensive line that you would say that for?
No, I mean, other than James Daniels and Nate Herbig getting injured, obviously that's been disappointing. But I mean, Dan Moore has been outstanding. He's been the best he's been, and I'm not really all that surprised by that either. I think it was dramatically overstated last year how badly he played. I thought he was not great, but it was generally fine. It's really funny that for all of the like Pittsburgh hates PFF stuff, that like they just took that one for such gospel that like, oh, Dan Moore is the worst tackle in the league. No, he's not. No, he's not. It's not even close. And that was the case last year. And I think he's certainly proving that that's not the case this year. To the point that, I wonder if they will engage in discussions with him about the future because I don't know. I mean, I think Troy Fautanu, when he comes back, will go to left tackle. And I believe in Troy Fautanu and his ability to do that. But it's certainly not a position that, given the fact that they used back-to-back first-round draft picks on it, you feel as comfortable as you should going forward between the injuries and, Broderick, I think, not taking the step forward that many hoped for.
Yeah, you're going to be relying on obviously a couple of leaps taking place there on both sides, which can be dangerous territory. And kind of the discussion that we had over the last couple of days in terms of like where the rest of this roster is. Say you are bringing back Russell Wilson and stuff like that. Is that a situation that you want to have, or would you rather have the more sure thing in Dan Moore continuing to protect Russ's blind side? That's an interesting, debate, I think, going back and forth. Like, do you sign up for the more sure thing, or do you go forward because of the investment that you made in back-to-back years and with first-round picks?
Yeah, and I think it also, like, look, I mean, they had already kind of made the decision to move on from James Daniels, which I wasn't really on board with. I think Mason McCormick has shown enough, though, that you can understand that, but it's also going to be probably McCormick and Frazier inside, very young there, too. They don't have a whole lot of experience. Not going to be spending a lot of money. I don't know. It's interesting what they're going to decide to do with tackle going forward.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how it all plays out. Just because, again, like I mentioned, it was crazy, but I feel like a lot of Steeler fans could fall into that same bucket where, like, you see Dan Moore go down for a play on Monday night, and a very different feeling than I think that we would have had in the past in terms of like how we felt like an injury to him could derail a season if it was actually something significant. What about on the interior in terms of what they've gotten from, obviously didn't get to see Nate Herbig, so Zach Frazier and then Ryan McCollum for the last couple of games. You mentioned James Daniels in there turning it to Mason McCormick. We saw Spencer Anderson before we saw Isaac Seumalo. Like, there's been a lot of guys that this offensive line has gone through.
Yeah, I think the interior guys have generally done a pretty nice job. Got a question this morning about Ryan McCollum on the old morning rush there. Let's see if I can find it here. It's no, I can't find it. Oh, here it is. Can you do a topic on Ryan McCollum effect on the run game and his connection with Russ? Will Zach Frazier coming back hurt the growth they've gained? No, I don't think Zach Frazier coming back, and I do expect Zach Frazier to come back after the bye. I don't think coming back will hurt anything. I think Ryan McCollum did a really nice job, though. I think that's a guy who didn't get a lot of playing time, but he certainly showed the value in keeping someone like him around with two really solid games there, and he's been really impressive. Frazier, I think, was pretty much as I expected. I thought he would be good, and he was. McCormick, I think, probably ahead of expectations. He's been raw. It's been up and down. There's no question. He's had some bad reps, but he's pretty well held his own in there.
Especially for me in terms of the pass pro. Like, that's where I think the bad moments have come when they've been there, but there haven't been as many as I thought there would be. Like, I feel like I knew what I was getting in terms of his run blocking right away, and he has the right temperament for sure. But I thought there was going to be a lot more lowlights in pass pro than what we've seen so far. So definitely impressed there. And, a guy that was kind of just thrown in there when we didn't expect him to be. Like James Daniels goes down, and it was like, man, what are you going to do now? Like, is it going to be Spencer Anderson or Mason McCormick? And obviously we had to see Spencer Anderson because of the Isaac Seumalo injury. So, yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you in terms of this group so far having held their own. And I think as a whole, despite Broderick's playing better than I expected, what's your expectation going forward the rest of the season? Is it just reasonable to expect, excuse me, they're going to continue to get better? Or do you have some concern in terms of the type of matchups they face on the back half of the stretch?
I think the young guys are just going to continue to get better. Guys like Frazier and McCormick. I think they should. I think we should continue to see improved play from them. Dan Moore, I think, is who he is. I'm not expecting a lot there, but I think Broderick Jones will benefit from the additional reps he's getting over the course of the season. I really think this is a group that is probably always going to be a little shaky in pass protection based on their talents, but they could become a really dominant run blocking offensive line. Like if you look and think about those like 19 to 20 Tennessee Titans teams and what they were doing for Derrick Henry, like it's not to me that far away from where these Steelers are and what they've done these last couple games for Najee Harris. I think that level of offensive line play in the run game is within their grasp the rest of this year. They're still going to be bumpy in pass pro, but I think they can really become a dominant run blocking offensive line.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. Maybe I think too much about this as well, but I'm also just like somebody that definitely believes in like the mental side of this game, right? And like after having the weeks that they've had in a row and kind of stacking them, now having the bye to reset, I just feel like mentally they're probably in a good place in terms of what they can do in the run game. And I think that bodes well as well. Like not only are they actually getting it done, but they believe that they can get it done week in and week out.
And they're playing good competition too. Dexter Lawrence and Quinnen Williams back-to-back weeks. Like that's as good as it gets in terms of the interior. They had Crosby, they had Mack and Bosa. Like they had Allen with the Broncos. Like they've played good players and they've done well against them as well. So I think that. I mean, haven't seen Myles Garrett yet. Gonna have a plan for him. But other than that, I mean, the Eagles have a really good front. But like the Bengals defensive line isn't very good. The Ravens aren't getting sacks like they used to. I don't see a place on this schedule where like this is just going to fall apart due to the nature of the opponent.
Right. Yeah. So I'm very optimistic and I'm very excited to see the growth of that group going forward. The other part of news that we kind of had here as it relates to the Steelers, yep, you guessed it, it involves the receiver position. The Jets putting Allen Lazard on IR. They actually played tonight, time of recording this episode, against the Houston Texans, which, depending on, how you feel about it, win or lose, could this take Mike Williams off of the table just because of the amount of bodies that they need to have at wide receiver? And it's already kind of been put out there. They haven't been, overwhelmed by any offers that they've had so far for Mike Williams or anything like that. So if Allen Lazard out of the mix for at least 4 weeks for the Jets, does that take Mike Williams off the table to the Steelers?
I think it does. I mean, I think they've been underwhelmed by the return that they're going to get for him anyway. If it's just like a 7th or a very minor pick swap, that's not doing a lot for their future. Also, like we all know who's really pulling strings in the Jets organization. And do we think Aaron Rodgers gives one crap about the future? Like what's a 7th round pick doing for number 8 there? Nothing. Do you think he would rather have a 2025 7th round pick or play the rest of the season with Mike Williams as wide receiver? Like to me, that's a no-brainer. And so I'm pretty skeptical that Mike Williams is going to be traded now. I'd already heard that they were sort of just meh on the idea of trading him if that's all they were getting. And now with this news, I think maybe the one reason they would have traded him would be just to do right by Williams if he wasn't getting any playing time. Just to say, like, if we're going to bury you, you were a vet, you came here on a 1-year deal. We don't want to make you unhappy. Now he's going to have all the playing time he wants. I don't think he's going to be unhappy. I mean, maybe Mike Williams really wants to win a Super Bowl, but is a trade to Pittsburgh the thing that gets him that wish? I don't know. And also if he really wanted to win a Super Bowl, why the heck did he sign with the Jets in the first place?
Hey, he bought into the hype, I guess, as some people have the last 2 years. Now, granted, they didn't have Aaron last year, but you and I were both pretty low on them compared to expectation, and I said the same thing this year. I don't see it. I thought that offensive line was going to get him killed, and they have not been very good. And I'm surprised that he's been able to play in all their games so far because of that. But yeah, I mean, it's just tough because they lose tonight, right? They fall to 2-7. They're not going to make noise in terms of making the playoffs or making a run or anything like that. But that is a good point in terms of what does Aaron Rodgers care about the future? Like if they're not looking to recoup picks, if Aaron Rodgers is truly the one that's calling the shots, and if you look at the roster construction, it certainly seems that that's the case. So I don't know. My mindset
Why was Allen Lazard
Lazard
there in the first place?
right? Yeah, for $10 million a season.
Yeah.
But the way that I was looking at it prior to this conversation, because Allen Lazard had been, taking so many snaps in the slot despite his size, maybe suggesting to some that wouldn't be the case. Maybe it would be Devontae Adams or Garrett Wilson shifting into that now if Mike Williams is going to be there in 3 wide receiver sets. But they have another player that Aaron has spoken highly about in the past, Xavier Gibson, who's their primary punt returner and stuff like that. I thought, okay, maybe he could take on a role for them in the slot, and they still move Mike Williams. But I'm not saying that that's going to happen. I don't know if they haven't been overwhelmed as the word for a return. I don't necessarily know what that means, but I wasn't like somebody that thought he was going to net a lot anyway or warrant a lot anyway. I mean, look at what DeAndre Hopkins went for. Deontay Johnson just went for nothing. Like, what are you expecting to get?
Like $8 million of his salary, or something more, maybe $9 million now of his salary, no matter what. So it's not like it's.
So I guess that's more so to do with it because, like,
yeah.
What is Mike Williams as a player worth? Not the salary that you're eating, but as a player with what he is worth.
Very little. But like they have to eat all that to trade him. I agree. I don't think Malachi Corley is over there too and hasn't gotten very much playing time. This is a guy we really liked in the draft process. I don't know. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to want to part with Mike Williams with Allen Lazard on the sideline. And I think what Aaron Rodgers wants, Aaron Rodgers gets.
It's just insane to me. You put out a tweet about this. Like, this just keeps happening. Like, Steelers targets to no fault of their own just keep coming off of the board.
Should we go through the list here? I have the list right in front of me here. All right, so obviously they swung and missed on a big deal with Brandon Ayuk. Came so close to trading for him to the point that Kyle Shanahan felt the need to sprint to his general manager's office to make sure that a trade was not happening after Ayuk had told him that he wanted to stay. And then, of course, you get into the season. The Steelers are playing against Devontae Adams, and he gets traded instead to the New York Jets, who offered, frankly, far too much for a aging veteran wide receiver, and understandably passed at that price so that Aaron Rodgers can reunite with another one of his old friends, not because it was a move that really made sense for the football team, as we've seen in the aftermath of that trade. The one I think you can hang on the Steelers is apparently showing no interest in DeAndre Hopkins as he gets traded to the Chiefs for a 5th-round pick very quietly. Didn't really understand that one. Then it was reported that the Steelers were one of the favorites to land Cooper Kupp. It was looking like the Rams might move him. Then Kupp and Puka Nacua get back from injury. They went off against the Minnesota Vikings last week. If they beat the Seahawks, they're going to be alone in first place in the NFC West this Sunday. I find it very hard to believe they're going to trade Cooper Kupp at this point. And in fact, Sean McVay has said they're not going to, which you generally don't do. Christian Kirk was a player that, hey, going to be on the open market. They thought maybe speculative. He gets hurt, breaks his collarbone, out for the rest of the year. Darius Slayton had a great game against the Steelers. We know the Steelers pay attention to that kind of thing. There's lots of speculation there. Report comes out from NFL Network earlier this week. The Giants unlikely to move him and want to sign him to a contract extension. All of these things continue to happen to players that I would like to just see if, like, I wrote that, like, Alan Saunders is a potential Steelers wide receiver trade candidate. Like, am I going to get a contract extension then or something? Like, what is going to happen to me to, like, make me unavailable for the Steelers to trade for me? I'm just curious to see what would happen there.
You're going to get a call from Joe Douglas to ask if you're interested in joining the New York Jets. That's what's going to happen.
Either that or I'm going to break my leg. One or the other. I get 50-50, right? It's just,
yeah, you're either going somewhere else or you're getting hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, could you include the Broncos being 5-3 and maybe taking Cortland? I know that Tony Pauline has included Cortland Sutton still in terms of the Steelers trying to acquire him. But like the fact they're 5-3 to me makes it unlikely.
Like I thought them keeping Cortland Sutton coming into this year was stupid, but they're winning games even though they're not very good. So I can't imagine them going back on that decision now. No, Cortland Sutton. Somebody asked me about T. Higgins. Guys,
Funny.
the Bengals are not trading T. Higgins to the Steelers for any amount of compensation. It does not matter what the Steelers offered. It literally
took you
unless it's like straight up for TJ Watt. that's no, they're not trading T. Higgins to the Steelers.
It took you a while to go through the list of targets that have either been traded elsewhere, got hurt, or
I forgot Amari Cooper too. Wait, I missed one. Amari Cooper, who we knew what the Steelers were not going to be able to trade for because it's for the Browns, because it's playing for the Browns, goes to the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, I forgot about that one as well.
But still, if we were to list off everything that the Bengals would rather do than trade T. Higgins to the Steelers, we'd be sitting here for a lot longer.
A very, very long time. The list of things that the Bengals would rather do than trade T. Higgins to the Steelers is innumerable.
Yes. They would rather eat nothing but Skyline chili for the rest of their lives, everybody in the organization.
They would rather admit that Skyline chili is the most disgusting thing that's ever had the word chili attached to it. Probably.
So where are we at now with this? Like, is there still say Mike Williams, say this happens, he's off the board, he's going to remain with the Jets. Is there somewhere else to turn? Is there names that we're not thinking of? Is there still an upgrade out there to be made for this wide receiver room, or are we going to move forward with just Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson, Scotty Miller?
Oh, Deontay Johnson, who the Steelers legally could not trade for, getting traded to their division rivals. That also happened in there. Forgot about that one. Yeah. Jacoby Myers, KJ Osborne.
Have we heard anything actually about Jacoby Myers though, or is it just like
I've not seen it other than they traded Adams, so I don't know what they're doing. But KJ Osborne has been rumored to be available. I guess he's an upgrade.
I brought up a name today.
Is someone that I think makes sense, even though I haven't really seen him mentioned much as an option. There's only so many teams are out of it.
Adam Thielen.
Like Adam Thielen, right? Yeah, but 34-year-old with a bad hamstring who's a slot receiver. I don't know what they would want.
The name that I was told came up when the Steelers and Rams did discuss Cooper Kupp. Demarcus Robinson name also came up within that conversation. He's got 15 receptions, 233 yards, 3 touchdowns on this year. He's 31. I didn't realize he was that old. He's also a pending UFA, but he's going to be buried on their depth chart, obviously, with Kupp and Nakua back. They still got Tutu Atwell. They got Tyler Johnson. Obviously, they use their tight end quite a bit. Is that a name that interests you at all? I mean, he has 3 touchdowns on the year. 2 of those just came in that game on Thursday night last week.
Yeah, I don't know why they would want to trade him. I think he's going to be a part of what they want to do going forward. And I think, Kupp and Nakua are their starters, but those are both in-breaking route guys that are either going to play out of the slot or better suited to separation game, quick game stuff. Demarcus Robinson and Tutu Atwell is the same thing, just faster and even smaller. Demarcus Robinson is their one kind of deep threat there. I don't know why they would want to get rid of him. Sure,
do they feel good maybe about what they saw in a small sample size before he also got hurt? Jordan Whittington?
Maybe. I am not as familiar with him. So maybe. But is he better than Van Jefferson? I guess probably. I don't know what kind of blocker he is. Maybe that would be something they'd be interested in. But, I don't see is that a difference maker?
No. Is there I don't know if there's a difference maker still out there though. I guess
Myers would be.
Oh yeah. If he is, sure. Same thing, I guess, if the Darius Slayton stuff is more so to get somebody to overpay or whatever, pay more.
Yeah.
I think that's certainly
if Bourne is healthy, he could be. Yeah.
Yeah, I think honestly, I get kind of excited thinking about what Bourne was before in San Fran. I get kind of excited about the idea of lining him up on the same side of the field as Calvin Austin, having him take the top off over top and letting Calvin run underneath. Like I think that there is something to be said there if he is healthy. I just don't know if he is.
He
So
would at least be cheap. Like,
yeah,
not that like they don't have draft picks to trade, but like,
mhm.
his box score stats, the last 3 games since he's come back from being injured are 4 catches for 29 yards. So
In total.
yeah, in total. Not doing a whole lot. Now, I mean, that offense isn't doing
Yeah.
a whole lot, period, but that's not
Right.
that's like wait and see if he's on waivers money there.
Yeah. Absolutely. I don't know. Not too much longer before we're going to know for sure whether this team is going to do something or not before the trade deadline.
Trade deadline is
I just believe
Tuesday. Nothing else important is happening next Tuesday. That's the only thing going on that day.
Trade early, trade often.
There you go.
The NFL trade deadline. Anything else? Wow, what a way to end it.
There you go. No, I think that's a good place to end it. We will continue our trip around the team and our midpoint review exercise tomorrow, but we are still soliciting your Steelers updated season opinions. What do you think the team is going to do now? What did you think the team was going to do in August? Smitty and I will reveal ours tomorrow afternoon. Until then, you can find me on X, Instagram, and TikTok at @Saunders_PGH. At the Steelers Now site account at PGH Steelers Now, SteelersNow.com. Go there, read the word so I can get paid. Sign up for Steelers Now Plus, SN Plus. Use promo code Allen10 to get 10% off. It works out to be about $4 a month. And not only do you get the best stuff from me and Derek Bell, but you get an ad-free viewing experience, which is essential if you are trying to read a lot of SteelersNow.com. And make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel. We actually just had one of our longtime audience members comment that said, "Oops, my bad, guys. I just realized I wasn't subscribed." What the heck? Check.
Yeah.
Make sure.
You know what's crazy is like I hear people that make YouTube videos say this all the time, and it's really not a cliche because I go and look at the analytics sometimes. And it's like 60% of the people that watch or listen to this aren't currently subscribed. So what are we doing?
Imagine
Make sure
what
that
would
you're subscribed to
happen
the
if
channel.
they all subscribed.
Exactly.
Like we need the meme of like the future city, the world. If people that listen to the show subscribe to Steelers Now on YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, be sure to leave us a 5-star review and subscribe if you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from. Just search Steelers Afternoon Drive. You will find us there. You'll also find us Steelers Afternoon Drive on TikTok, and you'll find me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH. For Allen Saunders and myself, thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.